Welcome, friends, to the Beaver Dam. We're going to have a damn fine time talking about Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker's event. I want to give you some disclaimers and talk a bit about this just before we hop in. This is going to be a little bit of a long video. I'll have chapters in the description. You can scrub through for whatever tier that you are looking for. But I do want to give you a couple disclaimers. This is not an event that's a Galactic Legend event, meaning that you can take as many tries as you need. So I went for the base level mods you need to be able to do these. You might have to roll the RNG a couple times, but I'll give you both the mods as well as the overall strategy, and then from there you're just gonna have to roll the odds. And keep in mind, these are not where I suggest the mods should be for these characters. If you're trying to use these characters in PvP, please mod them better. This is the bare minimum for this event. I want to see, a Wampa with 6-dot mods all the way across, with health mods, tenacity mods. I want to see a sexy Wampa out there. So don't just stop at what the mods are here. And also keep in mind, you don't technically need to get mods for this. So don't think, oh, I need to get these mods for these characters beforehand, because a lot of these are not the mods I would use for the characters as just in general as the characters. So feel free to pull from other characters, make mod profiles, and figure that out to be able to get these how you need them. Because honestly, I want to see you guys succeed. I don't want to see you guys just wasting potential of characters just because of this guide. Disclaimers aside, we're going to go through all of them. Keep in mind, this does scroll. This is something that gets a little confusing for people. They're like, I can't find the other tiers. It's because it scrolls. It's one of the few events that has so many that it needs to scroll. So we'll jump into the first one. So you're being Wampa and you're going up against CLS. I did do this at Relic 3 with one Zeta. That's going to be the Zeta that I have here, and we will go, as we go through, we'll go through all of the Zetas that you need. So the Cornered Beast Zeta is the only one that you really actually need, and it's also what gets you the Omicron for PvP, so it's going to be fantastic. I do suggest at least one 6-dot mod. I tried to stay away from 6-dot mods in general, but just in my testing, that 6-dot mod just pushed so much into Wampa for being able to have that survivability. And so I'm running a health arrow, I'm running a 6-dot health arrow, and then I'm running a tenacity cross, and then my circle's health, and then of course these are just whatever. I tried purposefully to go for the minimum speed. The minimum speed for this tier is 181 speed. So this is 189. Shouldn't matter as long as you're over that 181 mark. So you really don't need much speed on Wampa to be able to get him to take first turn. You do need to take first turn in most of these, though. So we'll hop right in. There can be some RNG with this, but as long as you have enough beefiness, you might have to get a couple 6-dot mods if you're at Relic 3, but honestly I did it without any 6-dot mods my first time. I had to roll the dice like 15 times. So what you want to do with this tier is basically he has two stances. When he's in his other stance, when he uses call to action, that is when you want to be trying to deal damage. And then when he's outside of call to action, that's when we're going to just try to ramp and survive, because we can't really do much damage in that case. So we'll hit our AoE, get our protection up, and then we're just going to kind of sit here. He's in call to action, so you can see here we're doing some solid damage to him. We'll just keep doing damage. Most likely this first time we won't get to death. There is a chance, but it's not very high. And so now we're dealing significantly less damage. He's outside of call to action. We can't apply those debuffs that give us so much. So we're going to just sit here and ramp and survive. So we're doing good on our protection up at the moment, and so we're just going to go basic and try to finish him off here while he's in this other stance. And there you go. And so sometimes if you're getting a lot of damage, you may have to hit that protection up and just stall for some time. But regardless, that's kind of the idea, is that while he's in call to action, you go and attack him. And when he's outside of call to action, then you're just ramping and surviving. And so follow that pattern, you'll be fine on that one. This one, CLS also did it at Relic 3, no problem. You can do all of these at the base Relic levels. This one, honestly, I don't think any of the Zetas are really necessary for this one. I did it without the Zetas when he was Relic 3. But if you're to get any Zeta for this event, learn Control. It's considered the lowest priority out of his Zetas, but all of his Zetas are great. This one honestly helps a ton and what allows me to do most of the things that I'm doing with my modding in this event. So definitely something to think about, something to go for. So, while Luke doesn't have call to action, he has counter chance, crit avoidance, but the important part is the 100% tenacity. The tenacity is super helpful for a lot of different things. Okay, so we jump right in with this. I almost forgot to look at our mods. Our mods aren't anything too crazy. Hello, this is the Rabid Beaver of Christmas Future. Don't listen to that guy. He's crazy. So, Commander Luke Skywalker in the event, Commander Luke Skywalker outside of the event are two different units. And so they have slightly different speeds. And so I mentioned here 226 speed as what you need to have, what's 221. But, so the problem is because they have two different sets of speeds, you just need to pay attention to the second number, which is how much additional speed you have. So right here, I've got 74 additional speed. You need at least 69. Nice. You need at least 69 additional speed to be able to take first turn. So outside of the event, it'll look at 241, and inside the event, it'll be registered as 221. But just look for that additional 69 speed. See ya. We're at 226 speed. Yeah, you should be completely fine with that. We got here some offense, speed, crit damage, offense, protection, you know, some solid stuff overall. Nothing too crazy, honestly. Basically, you just need right over that threshold to take first turn. And so we're right over that threshold. And so we're going to take that first turn, and you might have to roll the RNG a couple times. I'll be honest, you might have to, but you want to hit this middle ability and remove turn meter. If you don't remove turn meter, immediately back out. We're not going to switch stances. The moment we switch stances, just like in the last one, is the moment Wampa can deal damage to us. And so we want to stay out of that as much as possible and just use this stance to reset our cooldowns to be able to take away turn meter. The general rule is if he's above 100% turn meter, you use the middle ability if you have it ready. If he's below 50% turn meter, sorry, did I say 100%? If he's above 50%, use middle ability. If he's below 50%, use basic ability. The reason for this is because you inflict speed down, and so you'll be able to take 2 turns in a row back to back, regardless of which ability you use if you follow that pattern. So, right here, so you start off, you remove the turn meter, then you basic. And at this point, he has under 50% turn meter, so we'll basic again, because we're going to get another turn. And then now he's over 50% turn meter, so we'll swap stances, and we'll try and remove that turn meter. We got some good RNG here so far, so he's going to take a turn here. And it's going to be a little painful for a second. Luckily, we'll get one more turn. Okay, now we can swap stances. Now we're back to safety. He's at over 100% turn meter. We hit this ability. We remove that turn meter. Still doing solid work. Just keep working through him as much as you can. So currently he's under 50% turn meter, so we're just going to basic here. So now he's over 50% turn meter. So we're going to hit this. And there we go. And so that's basically how you do it. It's really not too hard. Obviously there's some really good RNG, some really bad RNG. Sometimes he doesn't hit the AoE, and so he has no protection up, and you can just blast through him. So honestly, it's not too bad. Right here on this one's one of those ones you may have to roll the RNG a few times. We'll go through our mods really quick. Honestly, I did these without the mods fully leveled up, and I wanted to prove this one to you guys. I had like level 12 mods across the board for her as well as Cholo, and then I have my basic mods on Chewbacca as well, of just like what I use for PvP. So this one's really not hard. You can remod them for offense if you're more worried about this. You can do offense or crit damage, and you'll up the RNG a bit. But I just want to show that you can do this with basically whatever you have on hand. These are just my mods I use for PvP, and I still haven't remodded 3PO since I got him, which I probably should. So, you know, we got 260 speed on Rebel Officer Leia Organa. Keep in mind, to take first turn, you need to have at least 221 speed. We'll talk a bit more about what I mean by first turn in this one in a sec. But honestly, I'm just running kind of base mods 30. I'm running a crit chance, a tenacity. Like, these aren't things that I'm like really trying to run anything specific on these guys. And so I'll kind of just show you the speeds. And so you want to be over 261 in general if you want to take the absolute first turn. But I don't care too much about taking the absolute first turn, because you want to take the second turn, basically. So there are some things to keep in mind for this event. Most Rebel events have this modifier. So you see here, we didn't quite take first turn. You do need to be over 270 for that first turn. Right here, though, we want these guys to take their turns and get these defense ups, because then we can bring in Chewbacca and be able to dispel all of this garbage, and so we can immediately start working on people. The thing you got to remember, though, is there's a global modifier on all Rebel events that make it so Stormtroopers, whenever they hit, they apply an expose. Even if if your characters dodge or deflect it, they still apply expose, and it can be very detrimental to you, so you always want to focus down Stormtroopers first out of anyone in a match. And so we're going to hit his AoE, get rid of all those buffs. The only Zeta that you really need for this, side note, it's not really important. Loyal Friend is the Zeta on Chewie. Definitely think it's helpful in this event. Don't think it's actually necessary. I've seen it done without it. Just if you don't have that Zeta, consider upping your mods a bit. I don't know. So we are going to focus down on the Stormtrooper. And so we'll get that translation as as widespread as we can. And see right there, he hit him, and now he has an expose. And so that's what we're worried about, is we want to get rid of those exposes and basically get rid of those characters that can expose. So now we have 2 exposes on him. That's really not good. And so that's kind of the idea, is we're trying to get rid of the guys that put these exposes, because the rest of them, they deal damage, and that's basically it. And we can take our time in this tier. The second tier is where it gets scary. So now that we have our Stormtroopers out, at this point it's just kind of a regular battle. If we get worried, we can always hit this ability and get some health back on one of our allies. But we're just gonna, continue to take turns and dealing damage to these guys. Keep in mind as well, Omegas in general, you will have to spend a couple for this. Specifically, the leader ability on Leia is super helpful for this. It's literally just a turn meter thing that helps a ton. Okay, so we're going to try, and as we start getting close to finishing this tier, we're going to try our best to save our AoEs for the next tier, because we want to be able to hit our AoEs as much as possible and hit our abilities as much as possible. Sweet, and now Buchaka here is going to have his AoE ready as well. Okay, so once again, we need the Stormtrooper out as soon as possible just to stay alive. Okay, let's pass translation to you. You always want to put it on Chewie first. If he already has it, then you put it over to, the last guy who doesn't have it. Okay, we're already doing good. We got the defense up off. Basically, each time the enemy takes a turn, Vader gets closer to entering the battle. And so we don't want Vader to enter the battle. And so we're trying to kill these guys off as fast as we can and just get rid of them. It's really unfortunate stun, honestly. And so this is kind of where the RNG comes into play, where you might have to rock this a few times to be able to get the RNG correct. Just because you may, not take too long, your damage isn't quite there. And this is where, if you want to, you can 100% go in and remod your team for offense. And it'll definitely help. It'll make it a lot easier. And so you can see right here, like, it got really, really close. And you might have to roll the RNG a couple times to get it right. You might have a really close match like this, or you could kill them really quickly. It just kind of depends with these mods. If you want to, you can 100% mod them for, you know, more speed. You can mod them for more offense and get a better result. But, like, I'm fine with just having some crap mods and being able to do something like that. Like, that right there just gave me the win. And so I just wanted to prove to you, this one's not that hard. You don't need to move around mods too much for this. This is just base level mods that I have on the characters. And yes, I would say with your Chewie, put him above 260 but below 270. He just hits that sweet spot where he takes first turn right after the stormtroopers. You can clear off all of the buffs and you can immediately start working on people. Next up on this one is interesting. So we have an event where we are going in and we're just trying to escape. And so similar to that last one where we just kind of are waiting for something to happen, it's the same kind of idea where instead of we're waiting for Darth Vader to come in and we're trying to stop that from happening, instead we're trying to escape and not die. And so if you have a low gear Wedge Antilles, you could have a gear 8 Wedge Antilles and still technically do this. It's going to be rough, but you can still do it. But also keep in mind, not only do you might have a lightspeed bundle, but also Wedge Antilles is a requirement for JML, so you're not going to lose much from spending a little bit of Raid 1 currency and getting up to gear 10, gear 12, whatever you might want to do, just to make this event easier. But you can do it at gear 8 if you want. For those of you with the lightspeed bundles, you'll have relic 3, just like I do. You're just going to have to roll the RNG more just if you have a lower wedge. So some things to keep in mind is basically you don't want to play how you normally play with Millennium Falcon. So this middle ability is usually what you hit, and that makes it so that way no one can target the Millennium Falcon. Then you take a bonus turn. That's great and all, except we want them to hit Millennium Falcon because we want them to stay away from Wedge. So if you have the relic character, you can actually take out some characters here, which works really well. And so I'm going to show how to take out characters. If it's not, you know, if you don't have a relic wedge, if you're just kind of running with whatever you got, you're not probably going to take out anyone, but you can still try this and see if you can pull off a good kill because it makes life easier. But you want to hit this last ability to give armor penetration to everyone. And so already we have some not bad RNG with them hitting the Y-Wing, and so that's a good thing because that's less damage on Wedge, and he's kind of the thing that we need to keep alive most. Everything else, I mean, we have relicked, so we're fine. So we want to try and hit this, and if we can get that shield disruption, it guarantees that we can kill the Imperial TIE Bomber quickly, and basically guarantees us a win. Because at this point, we can just go all in on that ship and just kind of take it out. The burning's annoying, but at this point, you know, one tap, it's gone. And now the burning doesn't do anything to us because that unique's gone, so we can now attack at a turn again. And we'll just basically avoid trying to hit things with foresight and things with counter. Because if they have counter or foresight, it'll give turn meter to him or just deal damage to us, and either one of those can be bad. So we're just going to basic here because we don't want to hit that middle ability. We want to give these guys as many turns as we can. Okay, let's see how our turn meter looks. Oh, perfect. Absolutely perfect. So you need Millennium Falcon to take last turn. Not something you can really control. But it has to enter hyperspace last, because this is the scene where they're fleeing Hoth and their hyperdrive doesn't work. And so because of the turn meter we have set up here, it's going to work out perfectly. This is very close. Obviously, you can see this may take a couple tries to get the stuff just perfect. But you got one person into lightspeed. One. And the last person. And just like that, you've completed this tier. Watch what? Okay. So that's we got tier 4 done. we're into tier 5. Tier 5, we're not even going to switch around our mods, honestly, for CLS. We're going to keep it the exact same that we were rocking before. It's the exact same speed for this tier, so you're fine in this tier as well. I'm rocking a 279 Hermit Yoda. These are just my PvP mods. You can run slower, you can get closer to where CLS is and still be fine. I'm obviously not rocking any of the Zetas on this character. You can do it all without the Zetas on Hermit Yoda. I do suggest a Zeta on Hermit Yoda just for the simple reason that it's great. Both of his Zetas are fantastic, but you don't need them. CLS, once again, learn control is always nice, but you don't really need a Zeta for this tier. You can do it at Relic 3. It's all about just controlling the characters you're going up against. The Zeta on Hermit Yoda will make this easier overall. Something doesn't feel right about this place. Okay, so keep in mind, Stormtroopers always what we want to kill. Stormtroopers going to apply those exposes. Exposes kill off your team quickly. So we're going to give Master's Training over to Luke. And then we're actually not going to go in for a turn meter removal on him, because his first turn is going to be his taunt. Sorry, my brain farted there for a sec. So I'm actually going to remove from that guy. But honestly, you kind of just... Oh, looks like it's not working right. That's fine, that's fine. We can deal with this. We're going to basic here. The only time you want to use that last ability is when he's low on health. Otherwise, just basics. So that way you can save it for when you need to bail yourself out of the situation. We're kind of at a point where we have enough to stun basically everyone. He has the most turn meter. So we're going to try and stun him. No stun, but that's fine. We'll try to stun him again. Let's try to get him in here to stun him. Solid stun. Let's try to get a stun over here. No such luck. It's fine. We're going to keep going. Got that stun out. Keep hitting that basic. And honestly, let's try to go for the kill. Got that stun. Let's try to get another stun here. And we're gonna just swap stances just for fun to kind of rebuild some of our protection before we go into the next area. Let's try to get that stun out. No stun. Oh, that's fine. Let's stun again. No? Okay. We'll switch stances, and then we'll stun. So as you can see, this event isn't too hard at this point. It's really the next tier is where you're going to start running into problems. And so you kind of just sit here and you do what you want. Yeah, let's just have you go in. I'm not actually going to switch stances here. And there's a reason for not being in the other stance. And I'll show you why. It's because of the same thing with the whole, you know, they can apply buffs and all of that, or debuffs and all of that during the other stance. This is where that learn control is coming in important, because that switching, the reason that we can't get things right now is because of the fact that we have extra tenacity from that learn control. So, basically, it's Vader. Vader, you can't remove anything. So, honestly, I'm going to just basic to try and get some speed down on the character. And that'll give us more turns over the character. At this point, let's just start dealing some damage. Unfortunately, we did get a dot on us, which is not common, but it happens. But you can see here, this one isn't even that hard either. And so there you go. It's fairly easy. If you have to switch stances, you have to switch stances. It's fine. It keeps you alive. You most likely will spend most of that time ability blocked and just hitting him anyways. And so it's important that you build up your protection right before that second phase. Tier 6, I'm going to do a quick remod, and then we will be back. It's going to be... This is the one where you really got a mod. Okay, with that, our mods are swapped. There's two different mod sets you can run for this, and I'll talk about both. Important little piece, in this battle, C-3PO and Chewbacca are required, but they'll be replaced by another character whose stats are scaled based off of Chewbacca's stats, including mods. A lot of people have talked about how it's also based off of C-3PO. I haven't seen really any evidence to support that. The speeds don't seem to be affected by both characters, so I'm just running off of that assumption. I've run 2 different sets of mods, and it's basically whether you use crit damage or offense, and I feel like both have worked for me about as easily as each other. I honestly found this one that I have right here a little bit better, but we'll kind of go over the other one as well. So I've tried just adding the mods like none other to this event, and it really didn't change much, honestly. It's still just super RNG dependent. So with Rebel Officer Leia Organa, we got potency in the bottom right. We need that potency for her. We need to be able to do ability blocks. Crit damage for the triangle, speed for the arrow, circle, we got protection. The idea with protection is that when we get hit with the exposes by the stormtroopers, like we've talked about before, we'll take less damage from them in the first tier because we need to stay alive for the second tier. Honestly though, as I've been testing this, both 6-dot health mods and just regular non-6-dot protection mods seem to do about the same amount in keeping you alive for this event. I prefer the protection, and I feel like I have better RNG, but that's the difference of, like, I do it 1 in 5 times versus 1 in 6 times, so it's not overly that important. It's still going to be super RNG dependent. Offense and potency are the 2 sets that we're using for Rebel Officer Leia Organa. Chewbacca, we're using all potency, and so we got a potency cross at the bottom. We got protection, and we got speed. And then we got our beautiful Lando here. And so Lando, we're just modding straight, let's see if I can get into him, geez. Straight offense or straight crit damage, depending on what you're doing. And so the primaries are speed, crit damage, offense, and protection. So I have done this with crit damage with health. I've done this with offense and health. It seems like no matter what, if you swap out these protection primaries with health, you'll still be able to do it. As long as they're 6-dot health ones. If they're not 6-dot health ones, always go protection. As for these other ones, they remain the same. You just swap out, either you have an offense set or you have a crit damage set. It's up to you. They both work. Overall, the speeds you're shooting for is she should be over 261, and everyone else should be at least in the 250s. So Chewbacca and Lando should be in the 250s. Organa in the 260s. If you want, you can get them all in the 260s. I don't have the ability to do that with the mods that I'm putting on these characters because I just don't have the best mods when it comes to crit damage and offense mods. And those that I do are just crazy good, and I don't want to show you guys just crazy good mods because then you're not going to get a good idea of this. And so just like in previous times, I'm going to transition to one where we win, but just to give you guys kind of an idea just to start, basically you're going to have a lot of stormtroopers in this. You're going to want to try and kill them as fast as you can, but you also have this guy on the side. Your abilities have been swapped out for basically just flavorful abilities, and you get this version of 3POC. And so I just want to go over this before we transition to, you know, the correct RNG. So you want to, you know, hit those ability blocks as much as you can. Lando's kit is just the same. You're always going to hit AoEs. You can see those exposes are starting to get layered on. And then you have a version of 3POC. It's not quite the 3POC's kit, but it is similar. And so we do have the blind mechanic, which is very, very important and what keeps you alive. And then we have the dealing extra damage for each person that you kill off. And this goes to the next event area as well. So if you've killed all 4 of these guys and then you hit this in the second event area, you're going to be able to do an additional set of damage. And so this is going to be very, very helpful in getting through this. But you're going to be relying a lot on your blind. You're going to be relying a lot on the ability block from Rolo. And we're just going to jump right into our footage of a good RNG run. Basically, you're trying to balance survivability as well as just dealing as much damage as you can. If you can land a whole bunch of ability blocks here at the beginning, you can get in before they get this defense up and be able to take out a lot of the damage on the far right guy, because that's who you want to kill first, just because at that point you can get a little extra damage on your Chupio. But honestly, it's just kind of working through them and spamming AoEs as much as possible. So you can see here, you know, he's almost dead. Right here, we're almost to the point where we have a whole bunch of exposes, so we hit blind instead to prevent people from killing us off. Now we're going to go in, hit that damage. You do want to be careful because you want to save these abilities for the next tier, so at this point I'm going to stop doing the abilities and kind of just working on the characters themselves, because you need as much protection as you can and as many of the abilities ready as you can. So we're just going to basic all the way through. So the second tier is where it gets scary, because we got Boba in here, and then we also have some Stormtroopers, and so we're trying to keep Boba ability blocked and blind at all times. That's why the potency is so important. And so we're going to hit that blind. We luckily got it, and so a lot of the times the best way that we can do this is we have the ability block, and then Boba hits his AoE. That's probably the best RNG you'll find. Now we hit that AoE because we killed all those people in the first one. It's going to deal tons of damage. And so we're still going, landed the ability block on Boba, doing just some solid work. And so this is basically, you just need to rely on the fact that you're getting all of these debuffs. And if you're not getting these debuffs, most likely you're not going to make it through. So that potency is super, super important, but also the RNG is important. So like right here, this is it. You just hit that one more time. If you can get 2 AoEs out of Chewbacca, you win, basically. But the problem is keeping Chewbacca around long enough for you to do it twice. And then that's basically tier 6, and good luck. I wish you luck. Tier 7, we are changing our mods just a tiny bit. So basically the same mods, we still got the same ones. You know, just some speed, some crit damage, some offense, and some protection. But then I swapped out these for tenacity, and that's what you want. Instead of potency, you want the 2 to be tenacity. And so we'll jump right in. It's fairly easy on this one, but if you don't have enough tenacity, or if you don't have the learn control Zeta, this is going to be a struggle, because you can basically be stuck in an infinite loop till you die. So the learn control Zeta is super important for this tier, so keep that in mind. If not, you're going to have to boost your tenacity a ton, or boost your damage a ton, and you're going to have to put a lot more into those mods. So this is really where that learn control Zeta puts in so incredibly much work. So this first one, you're basically just trying to bait out the Force Crush, and so I'm just going to do basic. He Force Crushes. Okay, now that he's Force Crushed, I can now, like, you know, jump into this other stance and be fine, and get some damage in here. Switch back. And let's continue working on some damage. And we want to be in this stance when we go into the second event. Do not, for the life of you, go in on the other one. Okay, this is where it gets a little funky, but basically we want to take as little damage as we can from these conduits. So we'll hit one of the conduits, and then we'll take damage from 2. So it might be really tempting to jump into your other ability immediately. Don't do it. Whatever you do, don't do it. Just basic. Let him take a turn. Let him take a turn. He's Force Crushed. Now, if our tenacity set wasn't there, and if we didn't have learn control, we'd have a whole bunch of dots. Sometimes you can resist all of them. If you want to drop your offense on the bottom right for another tenacity primary, not a tenacity set, but a tenacity primary, you might have the ability to completely disregard this, but like, as long as you only have 1 or 2 dots on you, you're gonna be fine. Now that we have the dots on us, we can feel fine jumping into our other ability and just starting to deal damage. You just gotta pay attention and make sure that you are not switching when you're about to get Force Crushed, just because we want to be able to deal as much damage as we can. But if we get too many dots on us and we keep dispelling those dots, he's gonna keep gaining protection back, and we're basically just gonna sit here until he finally kills us. So, I am going to just keep going for a second. We gotta hit these little guys. Even though their health bars don't show up always, they still need to be hit. Okay, so we're gonna swap stances. And now we're just waiting for a Force Crush before we jump into our other form. So we're just going to keep dealing damage. And we're almost there. And honestly, let's just keep going. So at this point, we're supposed to hit these things, obviously. But because he's so low, we should be able to just get in there and just finish him off. So there you go. Tier's not too hard. If you don't have that tenacity, you're going to be getting those dots a lot, which is really, really unfortunate. So keep in mind those dots. We're almost there, guys. We got one more tier and one more Zeta that you need. So that is tier 7. We're jumping into tier 8. Jumping into tier 8. Tier 8's interesting. So tier 8, you're going to want to have at least one Zeta on Vader. There's a lot of Zetas on Vader, and they're all fantastic. This one is the leader Zeta. This is one that a lot of people don't have. You can do this without the leader Zeta, but you're going to have to mod really, really, really well. So, up to you which you choose. But just modding it for this is so incredibly nice. Because it's just, you don't have to throw almost anything into your mods at this point. So the leader ability not only is good in this event, but it's also going to increase the power of the ship. It's also going to give him the ability to solo Geos easier if they're relic Geos. So overall, this is just not a bad Zeta. It's also great with the Star Killer lineup. So you're not going to be losing out on dropping this Zeta. And maybe one day we'll have a full team for Darth Vader. We'll see. I'm always curious what they'll put in the game. But overall speed, I can double check. Let me double check for you guys really quick. Yeah, I have this as the speed 164, and I don't think, unless you do no speed in general, I don't think you're ever gonna have a problem. Like, I put like minimum speed on all of my mods just to show you guys how much of not a problem it is to take first turn. So you can see here, you know, offense, defense, protection, potency, protection, and protection. And so honestly, this is what I would suggest, is giving yourself a bunch of protection. So protection, 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 and then potency, and then all potency sets. Basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to apply a debuff, and that's all that matters. Once you apply the debuff, you win. So you might have to roll the dice a few times with this bad of mods, but I want to show you that it's possible. So we're actually just going to try a Force Crush right now. And would you look at that, with all that potency, we got it applied. And at this point, we can just sit here and we can, like, you know, we can use this to get that off. And because we have that leader ability, those dots just keep coming back. And every time he gets rid of those dots, we get protection back. And so we just kind of sit here and watch him die. We're not actually trying to kill him or anything. We're just sitting here and kind of watching him kill himself off. And so this basically just keeps us alive long enough that we can get this final ability, because this is what we're looking for. Once this happens, we can do it. And so it's whenever a damage over time effect expires on Luke, this ability's cooldown is reduced by 1. So if you don't have the leader Zeta, you're trying to desperately stay alive to be able to use Force Crush multiple times. But because we have the leader Zeta, every time a damage over time is dispelled, it comes right back. He just keeps getting them applied and then keeps getting rid of them over and over again. And so we don't have to worry about this whatsoever. It takes like 10 seconds, you know. And every time he gets rid of them, we're gaining that protection back. And so already we've hit that point. This is garbage mods. All you need is that Zeta. If you don't have that Zeta, this is going to be painful. It's going to be ripping out toenails, teeth, whatever you want to think about. Ripping off your arm, ripping off your fingers. It's going to be that. So with that leader Zeta, this is literally the easiest thing in the world. And you get a really cool little cinematic. You killed my father! No, I am your father. One of the most misquoted lines of all time. And there you have it. It's, you know, there's a couple tiers that are rough. There's one tier. There's one tier that's painful. But if you have just a little bit of modding in general, you're going to get through all of these no problem. So overall, the event's not too hard, but tier 6 is painful and everyone hates it. couple more disclaimers, side notes, things to think about. You're going to have probably a Relic 7 Vader on regardless of where you farmed, because Vader's so important in the game as a solo and all that kind of stuff. So feel free to get a Relic 7 Vader. It's a requirement. Other things to keep in mind. CLS is a requirement for Leia. So if you want to up his Relic levels to make this easier for you, you're not going to suffer for it. Plus, the stats get shared from CLS if you're using 3POC. And so any Relic level you put on him is going to increase the potency of your CLS team. Chewbacca is required at Relic 6. 3PO is required at Relic 5. Lando's required at Relic 5 for JML. So these are all characters that you can get their Relic levels up if you're struggling and you just don't want to try and get really good mods. You can always Relic these guys up because they're requirements for Leia, they're requirements for JML. This is all leading up to Jabba as well. Like, Hermit Yoda, Relic 5. Wedge at Relic 3 is required for JML. So, like, feel free to, go above and beyond. A Relic 5 Wampa does so much in PvP. I brought him up to Relic 5 just for that reason. And with that, Omicron is absolutely banger. So keep that in mind. If you're struggling, you can always up the Relic levels without feeling guilty or feeling like you're wasting materials. But yeah, hopefully that helps you get your Jedi Knight Luke. Now comes the fun part of leveling up Jedi Knight Luke and all the chirotechs involved with that. But honestly, I've been using him at Relic 5, and I've been taking down, two-shotting SLKRs, occasionally one-shotting them at Relic 5 with no Zetas. So he's a banger character. You're going to get a lot of uses out of him. He's absolutely beautiful, and I hope this helps you get him. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like these kinds of guides, please do subscribe. Leave a comment if you're having any problems. I'd be happy to help, run through some testing with you and see if we can figure things out. Also, I have a Discord in the description. You can go check that out, and I'll help you in the Discord. Whatever works for you, and I'm down for it. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.